First one, the fundamental English one. If you cannot read or write, then this one gonna be belong in the impossible section, and you'll be maybe better drop it and try again the next year. But if you do have the basic language comprehension ability, then this one gonna be in the impossible to not get an A section because most of the exam are gonna be basically can be solved by purely reading comprehension, and you can just basically ignore everything in the lecture and not paying any attention to the language theory and stuff because that's are unneeded, and I do think that it was optional. The exam are gonna be the situational problem, like Alice and Bob playing game, they ask you to fill in the missing word, or they're gonna give you an article to read and ask you about the main idea, who is Alice, who is Bob, what they do, who they are, etc. That sort of stuff. And so for this one, my tips would be to finish the exam as early as possible and leave the room as fast as possible after second checking your answer just to auto farm against the people. Next one, the citizenship. I got no tip for this one and I do not know how to do it myself. I got like C or a C plus from this. Basically, it asks a lot about the geopolitical stuff, like the international affair in this year about something, the domestic and foreign policy of certain country, if I do not misremember. Insanely hard, would not recommend, but it was not optional subject, so pay attention. Next one, the general chemistry, the most insanely difficult out of them all, and this one will be belong in the impossible section. Basically, everybody got like the failing grade or just D from this one. And if you're not a former Olympic student in chemistry or a reincarnation of somebody like Leonardo da Vinci, then you gotta be a very specific individual with very specific interests, along with very specific skill set to do well on this one. Also, one thing though, most of the departments in the science faculty have to take a lab on Wednesday, except we CS students are permitted to not do any lab, and it will not be counted toward our final total credits. But one third of the exam questions are all going to be about the lab equipment and how to conduct the experiment. So imagine losing one third of your point. I'm not making any point here. I'm just saying that this one is easy to fumble. But that being said, though, there are some pro tips, and one of them was to drop the subject in the first semester and then retake it in the second semester, and then the difficulty will be dropped into just doable. This method is still valid and not getting passed, so maybe try it if you find it hard or too difficult to make it through for general chemistry. Next is the fundamentals of programming. For this one, it's belong in the autolay section because there are literally only three things that you need to know, which are the variable initialization, the conditional expression, and the iteration. The exam and assignment requires no creativity and are easy to, to solve. It's all just implementation problem and are not a very ad hoc type of problem where you need to think a lot. Also, I almost forgot to mention that the exam are going to be full feedback, which means that you're going to see your score in the real time while solving the problem. And this allows you for an auto farming opportunity where if you finish your exam as fast as possible and leave the room as early as possible, you could auto farm against the people in the same department after making sure that you get a full score, of course. Next is the calculus one. Well, this one gonna sound a little bit controversial, but the reason that you all not getting an A or getting a failing grade was because you all not second checking your answer. I do not know why it's so hard for you all to just be patient and sit through the end of the exam while also checking your answer before submit. Because for this one, checking for the potential arithmetical error or a logical error that could be prevalent in your exam is not optional. It's not a kind of exam where you leave it early just to auto farm against the people in the same room. It's not worth it. And for your information, I normally check like 3 to 7 times minimum for the arithmetical error before I submit my exam. And so that's the tip. Second, check your answer. Be patient. Next one, the English 2. This one's similar to English 1, but they changed the theme of story from maybe the cultural diversity to innovation and stuff. I don't remember. Next one, the calculus 2. Same with calculus 1, just like can check your answer and you will do fine. Next one, the information, technology, and modern life. This is a boring one. Everybody probably get an A because they use ChatGPT and the exam was not made on site. Next, the discrete structure. This one all about the basic mathematical proof that you all likely seen in high school if you do have the formal education. There are going to be many classic examples, like for example, the proof of infinitely many prime or the square root of 2 being irrational using contradiction. For this one, the thing to keep in mind is that everything that you see in the assignment are definitely going to be repeating both in midterm and final. Also, there are going to be like five hardest problem in the problems that both in midterm and final. And if you were to solve one of them at least, you would definitely getting an A, assuming that you also solved the preceding easier problem correctly. Last time I did solve one of this so-called hard problem, which require you to know about how to solve the linear Diophantine equation using the GCD extended algorithm. Well, the reason I'm telling you this not just only to flex, but another good reason is that my department have a strong history of repeating an exam, and this one does not appear directly in the curriculum, so university it coming, but definitely it's gonna be repeating in the next year and the year after too. So take that as a tip. Next, the basic biology. This one is hard but doable. Well, this one's supposed to be a ball. It actually as difficult as chemistry, but the judging criteria and the grading rubric were not that strict, and the score only judged based on the group percentile. So imagine I got like B plus just by solving only 30 out of 200. The thing that you need to keep in mind is that everybody is equally suck and doing bad at a subject. Well, for some reason, do everybody in the science faculty or not seems to be very good with science subject. I don't know why too, but whatever. Well, for a tip, I do not have any tip. Maybe just watch the two videos about how to cell division and or in a translation or something. Anything that appear in the curriculum. I don't know. Try your best. Next, the object-oriented programming. This one is easy, but the most ridiculous part about this one is that the exam are conducted on paper, not on PC, so you have to write all the code on paper, hoping that you don't mistype anything. A lot of people did fumble too because you have to write the stuff down and then realize that you have to press enter and add some more lines of code, and you have to erase the whole page as a result. That caused them to not finish all of the problems in time and get a bad grading. My tip would be to just write the stuff fast and maybe have a readable handwriting. Lastly, physics. Not much to say for this one, but all of the assignment are 100% gonna be repeating in the exam and maybe learn how to use the scientific calculator, I think, because the very first time it does get very confusing, like how to swap between the decimal and fraction. Also, I forgot to mention that you also need the scientific calculator in the general chemistry. So overall, first one, it was hard but doable.